Today I have Charles D. Chuck Henderson, Chief Executive Officer of the American Diabetes Association. We're going to talk about diabetes, the disease itself, and what the ADA is doing to educate the public, its symptoms, treatments, and prevention. Good morning, Chuck. How are you?
Good morning, James. Thank you for having me, man. Thank you so much.
I appreciate. I really want to talk to you today too. Trust me. How prevalent is diabetes in the U.S.?
You know what, James? That's a question that I get all the time. I mean, nearly one in two Americans has diabetes or pre-diabetes. That's 136 million Americans. Almost half the country. It's likely that someone that I know, or loved one that's impacted by this disease. We have friends that are struggling. To afford medicines, affordability, and access. Is a big issue in this country. And so every 26 seconds, someone in the US is diagnosed with diabetes. So, we're in a dogfight. And then when you think about, if you take it a step down and when you think about underserved and rural populations, that's really affecting those people the most.
What are the key differences between type 1, type 2, and gestational diabetes?
Yeah, so when you have diabetes, your blood glucose or your blood sugar levels rise too high. And in type 1 diabetes, your immune system mistakenly destroys the beta cells in your pancreas that make insulin. And so eventually, your body is no longer able to make its own insulin, which is very problematic. And so when you think about type 2 diabetes, your body does not make enough insulin or does not use the insulin it does make well. And so type 2 diabetes is the most common type of diabetes that there is. And so when we think about gestational diabetes that develops during pregnancies, blood glucose levels may or may not return to normal after giving birth. And so even if they do return to some sense of normalcy, you still have a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes later in life and need to be tested regularly by your healthcare professional.
Can you share some of the symptoms we should recognize? In other words, let's say somebody's diabetic. Let's say they haven't eaten in anywhere between 6 to 8 hours.
Yep. Yeah. So and again, this is tricky because some of these symptoms are associated with other chronic things, and so when we think about urinating often, feeling very thirsty, extreme fatigue, blurry vision, cuts or bruises that are slow to heal, weight loss, even though you are eating, tingling pain and numbness in the hands and the feet that are typically associated with type 2. And then the scary thing is that some people living with type 2 diabetes have symptoms so mild that they don't even notice them.
Wow. So, what is the ADA doing to help raise awareness of diabetes?
Yeah, so that's a great question. First of all, we're encouraging everyone to know your risk. And then we have a free 60-second type 2 risk test online that you can access at diabetes.org/risk test. And what that does is that allows you to discover your risk and encourage people to do the same. And if you find out that you have prediabetes, you can take steps to prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. And then if type 1 diabetes runs in your family, the chances of you or your child developing it may be a lot higher. So there are tests where you can test antibodies that can see that, what your risk is for developing. But again, it's all about early detection in the fight to avoid diabetes related complications around heart, kidney, and eye disease.
Now, Chuck, can you tell us about some of the resources that are available?
Yeah, so we have a plethora of resources. I'll just, call out a couple here. Healthy eating and lifestyle programs we have, such as Project Power, which is a lifestyle change program for the entire family. We have our Ask the Expert series, which is designed to tackle commonly faced issues, ask questions about of our experts, and hear from others that have faced similar experiences. We have, research-based clinical recommendations for healthcare professionals in our standards of care diabetes that we publish annually. And then we have resources to support personalized care, tips, insights, recipes, and more to support people living with diabetes and their caregivers, which also carry a very heavy burden. And then at the end of the day, please go to diabetes.org, which has a wealth of information.
Now, what is the ADA doing to further its vision of a world free of diabetes and all its burdens? How can people get involved in the fight to end diabetes?
Yeah, so I would say as a, as a close in terms of what those call to actions are, is diabetes is an epidemic. So there are three things that I want people personally to take away, and we as an org, it's important first to know your symptoms of diabetes and their risk, and then the second, the American Diabetes Association, we have programs and resources available to support people in living well with diabetes and to prevent diabetes. And so finally, our fight to end diabetes is never more urgent, but we can't do it alone. So I encourage all your great listeners on your program to join us in this fight, and they can go to diabetes.org/we fight to learn more about diabetes, access our programming, and find ways to get involved in our great association.
I've been speaking with Chuck Henderson, CEO of the American Diabetes Association. Chuck, thank you again for joining us on Morning Blend.
Thank you so much and have a blessed day.
You too.